Hello guys, today I want to show you another practical example of Spotty Laravel data package in another open source project. So recently on this channel I had this video from controller to action pass array or data object, and this is an example of that data object of Spotty package, which is later in the video used in the action class as a parameter of that data being passed from the controller. So today I want to show you another example, which should be a good showcase in which case you need that structure. So this is the project by Canyon GBS AdvisingApp with license data class passed between different Laravel files. How did I find it? Interesting thing. If you want to know which package is used in other packages or open source projects, you can navigate like this. So open the package on GitHub, go to Insights, then Dependency Graph, and then Dependents. It will show you other packages or open source projects that use, in this case, Laravel data. Unfortunately, I haven't found any way to order them by popularity or GitHub stars or something like that, so I had to actually manually navigate and click next multiple times to find the most popular examples, and chose the one example that we will be talking about. But generally, network dependence is pretty useful to understand the use cases of some packages, not only Laravel. It could be anything. Let's discuss this practical example, and I want you to understand when to use that Spotty data. So the whole application, AdvisingApp, is a SaaS offering to colleges and universities, and part of the solution is the license. And license consists of a few fields. In this case, if we open the actual file of app data transfer objects, which is totally a preference of creator how to structure. So there's folder data transfer objects, then subfolder again license management. So actually it contains more data transfer objects also with subfolders. So if you navigate to the actual license data, which has a big dog block of copyright, but the actual license consists of updated add, and then three more classes inside. So license subscription data, license limits data, and license add-ons data. So it's even a more complex structure. If we take a look at license subscription data, open that up in GitHub. For subscription, it has client name, partner name, start date and end date, and a few more things. And the main question, where is that data used and why is it so? And to understand all of that, let's get back to code search result. If we search for license data in the whole project, let's take a look at examples. For example, Laravel job update tenant license data. And in the constructor of that job, it has license data as a parameter. And then this data is used inside of the function to update license settings. It doesn't really matter that much how it actually works under the hood. What matters is we pass license data class. And where it is used, for example, if we go to update tenant license data on GitHub, 6 references, and for example, action class of create tenant, we can navigate to that. GitHub has pretty good navigation, to be honest. And there is a batch of commands, migrate tenant database. It's probably on creation of the tenant, kind of registration. And then we update tenant license data with license data as a parameter, and license data comes here in the invoke. So this is an action class, another layer. Now, where is that class called and how exactly? Create tenant. It is used in the create tenant controller or in create tenant console command, artisan command. So for example, let's open that artisan command, which uses that action here. And then in the handle, we have create tenant action. And let me remind you the parameters of that action. So name, domain, config, user, and then license data as number 5 parameter. So we have name and domain passed here. Then in configuration, a separate class of config, which doesn't really matter that much in our case. And here it is. License data, we create new data object, again Spotty data object with updated add now, and then sub objects of subscription data, limits data, and add-ons data. And each of those is also Spotty data class object. So this is kind of a full picture. There's a class that defines what's inside, what data is inside of actual license, which consists in this case of even more complex structure. And then what it allows you to do is to create that structure from, for example, console command. Or if we get back to the initial search results, you can use that in action class in the controller. For example, sync tenant controller. Let's open that one. And we can create license data object like this here from form request, in this case within request validated. So Spotty Laravel data class allows you to create data object from form request, for example. And then a few more examples of that same license data. So there's settings class. There's also create tenant controller, which we already saw. There's also filament page. This is another kind of layer. So you may have a front-facing page, then you may have artisan commands like console commands for the background, then you may have queued jobs, and also you may have admin panel on filament. And then on top of that, you have tests. So how do those pieces communicate together to pass the same set of data? There should be some kind of structure to define that license data in whatever shape or form. So this happens to be the solution, Spotty Laravel data, where you define the structure once, and then whenever you pass that data from controller or from job or from wherever, PHP validates that your passed parameter is within that structure. It's kind of additional validation ensuring that the same data is passed all along throughout all your application. So I hope with this example you understand the use case of that DTOs or data objects in general, where you have more complex structure of data, which is not necessarily one database table, and more complex than just name and description of something. This is when you would think about data objects. What do you think? Is it a convincing example, or maybe you would add some more practical examples? Shoot them in the comments below. That's it for this time, and see you guys in other videos.